I'm with you though,
Are you?
man. Like the older I get, like I could hang out with my mom every day.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife, I mean, she loves it because the boys are here and stuff like that. So anytime mom wants us to come over, my mom lives like 30 minutes from me. So it's
Oh,
much like
nice.
your old situation where I mean
Mm-hmm.
we see each other multiple times a week, and it's you appreciate that the older you get, and especially like when you have kids too.
Dude, that's such a big thing that I think we've gone really wrong with in America is the whole idea of the nuclear family instead of a multi-generational family. Because, I mean,
Mhm.
if you look at even up until probably like our childhood, like I would like the neighborhood that we grew up in, it was just like the kids kind of rotated from house to house throughout the day and over the course of the summer. And, it's just there were parents around, so like it was no worry. We all kind of took care of each other's kid, or they all took care of each other's kids, and we just show up in random houses and snacks here, lunch there, things like that. And then um it's yeah, just leave that on the down. Um, yeah, before that, a lot of times, I mean, you see, what was it? Oh, like New York all the time, like the older movies from like the 50s and before. It's like three or four generations all living in the same either apartment specifically or within that building, and you had that communal network where the grandparents could watch the kids while you guys worked or did whatever you needed to and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that's awesome that you guys have that. I would love to see more of that. And that's the other thing too I love about living in a small town is we still kind of get that. You talk to most of the parents, it's like, do you know where the kids are? No, not right now. They're probably, they're like, they could be at this person's house, down at the park.
Yeah,
It's like, and if you just drive around, you'll see a gaggle of kids just running around the neighborhood.
yeah, nah, yeah. It's something that means a lot to us. Just growing up around cousins and aunts and uncles, grandparents, all that stuff, because we didn't really have a ton of that when I grew up, and so it's something like for my kids that it's really important that they have strong relationships with their family, their grandparents, their cousins, and all that stuff. And so we're really blessed to be able to live 40 minutes from like Brianna's family and then like 30 from mine. And it's all like right here from an immediate family standpoint. So I totally resonate with that 100%. And, for some people, it may be tough. And I guess it depends on like the dynamic and the relationship that you have with your family. That's going to be a big factor. But, for us, I can only speak for us. We have a really great relationship with most of our family, the ones that are around here anyway. And it makes it so much easier because it truly does take a village to raise kids and to do things. And when you get older, all you care about is the relationships that you were able to keep and maintain over a sustained period of time. Like that's what's gonna bring you the fulfillment is those things. And so we tried to curate our life in such a way where we're valuing those things first. Birthday parties, get-togethers, holidays, like we try to make those things like super super special because when you're on your deathbed, like you're not worried about how much money you were able to curate or your accolades or the world's view of success. Like you're worried about the people that are there with you that you've done life with over the last 50, 60, 70 years, and those are the things that you really really cherish, and it actually holds deep meaning.
100%. And especially like doubly so because you can kind of get all the kids together regularly too, and they can grow up being friends and having that relationship and things like that. Because I totally agree with you. The older I get, the more I value the longer term friendships and the people have just known me throughout the course of my life. Even if we haven't been close the whole time, it's just a
Yeah.
simple fact that they've kind of seen the different life stages, been around for some of the different big things throughout the teens, 20s, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But those old long relationships are super important and super cool to have, and it free well not super cheap entertainment too because you're not having to worry about like a babysitter or a bunch of that stuff. You just all join um, at someone's house, for what, a game or just for a cookout or something like that, and the kids can play around and entertain each other in the backyard. All the
Yep.
parents get a break and get to have some adult time because I know
Yep.
that's a a big thing when you have little kids is you don't get too much adult time
Hmm.
anymore. And it's just a lot of just running around with the kids. So having that, and allowing parent, it's just, I think it's so cool. And I wish we had more of it.
Bro, I'm with you on it. And it's crazy because, like, relationships, they change over time based on the season of life that you're in, right? And it's like when you're younger, at least for me, man, the friends that I had when I was younger, like, I thought it was like we're going to be friends forever. Like, this is never going to stop. And then life happens, you get older, and your best friends in high school, for some people they still maintain those relationships, but for most, I would assume, because this happened to me, like, you kind of fall out of touch when you go to college, and then you got really great friends that you met and curated those relationships in college, and you think that's going to be a forever thing. Then you graduate, people get jobs all over the country, you start moving, and so you start losing touch a little bit. Then let's say you move to a new city or whatever, you're curating new relationships there. Throw in getting married, now you're hanging out with people that are married. Throw in marriage, and then you start having kids. Now you're hanging out with people who are married and also have kids. And so the relation it's fascinating how relationships kind of change over time based on what you're doing in that season. Because what I've found is you just naturally tend to spend more time with people that are in the same season as you, because they just get it. Like, it's much harder for me to kick it with guys that are single, simply because, like, my life and what my life looks like and what their life looks like a lot of times is totally different. Like, I'm up at 4 a.m. because I got to get my workout in before my kids get up, right? I'm in bed by 9 because I know that I have to have a meticulous schedule in order to fit everything in. My single friends, a lot of the times, like, they're not getting up at 4 a.m. I don't blame them. Why would you if you didn't have to, right? And so I find that, like, things like that definitely play a role in terms of how deep and meaningful and impactful your relationships are based on, like, just where you're at in life.
100%. And I think the other thing too is as you get older and the friends that stick around, a lot of it is like you said, you're at the same stage of life, so you can have kind of like deeper conversations, like kids about or conversations about like your kids and what you hope for them and what you're trying to do as a parent are very different than, hey, what bar do you want to go to pick up chicks tonight, and talking about those kind, because like surface level stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it just allows you to go like so much deeper when you have kids and have that. What I've noticed too, as my son has gotten more into sports and doing all the sports things, just having sports parents to hang around with, and how that's almost now like a social outing. Like I love
Yeah.
going to his baseball tournaments over the weekend because I'm like, oh, cool. Like I get to like hang out with people. Like I get to have friends and socialize and interact and do stuff like that. So that's also a very different dynamic than either like when you're younger, single, without kids and stuff. Though just what you do, I guess, changes a lot.
Yep. No, that's good. That's good. Um, I'm looking at some of our questions
Oh, good point. I totally forgot about those
that
again.
we did. Oh, I like this question. In what weird or unexpected ways has your college degree helped you?
Oh, dang. Okay.
That's one that you wrote.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to answer that first?
Whichever. You
Okay.
good?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my college story is really interesting and weird. So, I didn't want to go to college at all. I wanted to go into the military, but I had a sister who passed away like probably about 2 weeks before I was going to sign a contract. So I promised my parents I'd go to college for 2 years first. I started off with what was it? Computer programming and art because I wanted to be like graphic design and stuff like that. This is back
Hmm.
in '08 when, no the internet and the computers were newer and there wasn't but everybody wasn't a graphic designer then. Um, then I still didn't want to go to college, so I joined the Navy and went after my second year. Hurt my knee in boot camp, so lost my contract and got kicked out.
Mm.
So I came back and I was like, how do I get out of here as fast as possible? Because I originally was going to get a business degree, and then I found out with all the prerequisites I needed that weren't the prereqs I already had, it was going to take me another 4 or 5 years. I'm like, nope.
Yeah,
So I settled on religious studies,
that's
which
right.
I'm not a very religious person at all. I find
Mhm.
religion fascinating, but had pretty much no faith at that time.
Mhm.
Um, but it was one of those where I could get done with it in 2 years. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. And it was super, super fascinating, ended being completely different than what I was expecting. And the two biggest takeaways that it's helped me with is well, actually, probably three. One is I feel like I'm more understanding of different people in different situations and different ways of living their life, because I spent time reading about Islam and how people lived an Islamic life, or Muslim life rather. Same with Christianity, Judaism, Hindu, Buddhism, all these weird other little religions and stuff like that, and how they've all made sense of the world based on that. So I
Mhm.
think that's given me a better ability to just like look at viewpoints and lifestyles different from my own and be like, okay, cool. I can, not for me, but I can see how that works for you. The other thing is it made me a really good writer, which is what I do now. And I actually used to be a horrible writer. I was a C&D writer all through high school and most of college. But then when you're writing 5 pages a week for all these different classes, you get pretty good at writing.
Mhm.
And then the other thing too with that is finding scholarly articles for different like religious studies stuff can be very difficult. I took a Judaism and comic books class, and finding 5 peer-reviewed scholarly sources around comic books and religion was so hard. And like I almost
Okay.
had to base my paper on the sources that I could find that are like kind of loosely based around my topic. Um, and what that did was give me kind of an ability to like problem solve better and like look beyond more like normal boundaries and get more creative with solutions and things like that. Um, so while I don't use my degree and never have used my degree directly, I think the skill, like the meta skills that I got from going to college and from doing that, were super beneficial, and I mean has led me to where I am now and like responsible for the career that I have now. So
Mm.
yeah, in
Mhm.
a really backwards way, my degree is actually useful, unlike a lot of people's.
Yeah. No, I can definitely see that. So you graduated in how long did it take you to grad? Did you even finish four? Because you said you wanted to get
Yeah,
out quick.
yeah, I
Okay.
did in four. Yeah,
Okay.
that was yeah. I ended up busting butt and doing like 21 credits or something every
Good
for like
Lord,
4 semesters.
bro. I remember I used to think 15 was a lot. I was trying to do 12. 21, goodness, bro. That's school all day and night. Oh
It
my
was
god.
Yeah, because originally I wanted to go back in the military,
Yeah.
but ended up having my kid and figured being gone 300 days a year probably wasn't super good. So
Yeah.
the original plan was, yeah, just rehab my knee and get back as quickly as possible. So I'm like, whatever I got to do, I got to
Yeah,
do.
for sure. That's awesome, man. That's cool.
What about
Um,
you? I don't. What is your
yeah,
degree in?
kinesiology.
Oh, yeah, I knew that. I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah, kinesiology. So I actually did use my degree for quite some time once I graduated, but yeah, man, for me, like the biggest motivator was and going to college was just getting out of Charlottesville, Virginia, and getting out of my parents' house. Like at the time, like I appreciate it now, but before you don't appreciate it. Like I came from a very, very strict African Christian household, and so like I had the clamps on me for 18 years, and so when I got any taste of freedom, I made sure. One that I applied to, most of the schools I applied to were out of state. And I did that strategically because I didn't want to go anywhere where I knew people, and also I didn't want to go somewhere where my parents could just pull up on me and be close like that. A lot of my friends went, an hour or two from where we grew up. I went like 7 hours away. I went 2 states away, to the University of Kentucky, and that's like a 7.5 hour drive. Like you can't just show up on my doorstep when you're that far away. So that was one of the biggest motivators. But yeah, man, I went in, and you know, the goal was like in my culture, like you are an absolute failure if you do not either get a degree in engineering or law or anything like medicine. Like as an African, like those are your three avenues. Those are your three choices. I come from a family of like doctors and nurses and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I guess I'm about to go be a doctor, right? And so, bro, I stepped into my first class freshman year, Bio 101. I remember it like it was yesterday. And when we opened up that textbook, friend, and the teacher started teaching day one, I knew. I said, nah, man, this isn't for me. I'm used to walking, but the whole first week, I'm used to syllabus week. You don't start learning the first day. Are you kidding me? But she got into it, like, open your books to chapter one. We're going to be learning about mitochondria, da da da, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, oh my, what have I done? What have I done? This is not for me at all. And so, bro, I call back home and I'm like, yo, I don't think this is my route. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but yeah, this isn't for me. And so, long story short, I ended up finally landing on kinesiology because I really loved strength and conditioning. I was always an athlete growing up and wanted to be around athletes. First started like physical therapy, but that was too slow and boring for me. And found strength and conditioning and kinesiology, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's definitely more my speed." So did all that, and spent a lot of time with the football team and just built a ton of relationships there. And so graduated in like 4 years, something, or maybe, yeah, 4 years. And the few things that I learned through getting that degree was first just discipline and responsibility. Um, when you get to school, when you get to college, especially a university that's not like right by home, you got to figure a whole lot of stuff out yourself. Like, mom's not doing your laundry. She's not going grocery shopping for you. She's not waking you up to go to class. She's not reminding you that you got a test next week. None of that. Like, that is a rude awakening for most kids. And bro, I'm telling you, like the way that this next generation's coming up with how these parents are parenting their kids, it's like kind of scary because it's like, yo, when they get out of the house, you're not gonna be there. And I know this to be true because I dealt with a lot of them in property management, where the parents'
Mm.
kids or the parents are calling me about maintenance issues. And it's like, yo, you live in California. Why are you calling me? I need to be talking to the kid that lives in the unit. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, yo, that's insane. I got to college and mom's like, figure it out. Like, figure it out. And so I did. And so discipline and responsibility was huge for me, um, as far as going to university. The second thing was like the ability to stick with something long enough until you see a result. Like 4 years is a while. And like oftentimes it felt like I'm never getting out of here. Like, this is my life. And so it really taught me to literally take it one day at a time. Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And
Mm-hmm.
so setting goals, long-term goals that may seem like a stretch, but breaking them down into like micro goals and just putting one foot in front of the other really taught me a lesson in terms of like, hey, things don't just happen overnight. Rome wasn't just built in a day. Like, good things oftentimes take time. And then also just learning how like different people think and operate, because when you're at school, like, you just get immersed in different types of cultures and people that grew up in different areas of the country, that do things differently, that speak differently, that believe different things. And so it really teaches you about how small your world is and your bubble is. And there's a whole great big world out there of people that don't look like you, don't think like you, don't act like you, but you can learn a lot from. And I really appreciated that. But the biggest thing was the opportunity to daily network and build relationships. And I'm literally where I am today because of relationships that were built in college. Like my first job that I got was because one of my friends got drafted by the Titans and he
Mm.
put in a word with the head strength coach at the Titans at the time. Head strength coach at the Titans is calling me up like, "Hey, I heard great things about you. Why don't you come down next week for an interview?" Like this is the type of stuff that you really got to understand. Like this world is built off of relationships and who you know. Yes, you need to develop skill. Yes, you need to master things, obviously. But getting in the rooms is like 90% of the battle. Like getting in front of the right people is so tough to do. And it's much easier to be able to do that when you have the right relationships. And so for me, like that was probably the biggest thing that I got from college. And I know you and I've had this conversation before. Like I'm not like the actual return on investment for college itself, the ROI really, to me personally, depending upon what you do, isn't really there. But
Mm-hmm.
if you do go and you're able to leverage relationships, the ROI could be infinite returns based on how you're able to leverage relationships, how you're able to get into the right rooms with the right people. And so long as you have developed skill and developed things, or someone sees potential in you, it can launch you and lead you into different things in life that you'd never even thought possible. So that's probably my biggest thing.
I think the networking part is one of the best benefits for the majority of people. Like I said, like unless it's a licensed field,
Yes.
college is And what I would love to see a transition away from college and have a like I think our country would do very well to have a 2-year mandatory public service for like everybody who graduates high school. So you know how some countries will do mandatory conscription for their military. This
Mm,
would be. I don't think we need that for the military. Maybe it could. It's an option if you want it, but I would say more of like, um, with our aging population, 2 years as like a CNA or just doing stuff taking care of old people could be just working in your community or another community, like going to more inner city stuff or poor areas and volunteering, whether it's cleanup or working with kids, whatever it might be, but have some sort of kind of 2-year mandatory thing where it's random. You just get put wherever in the country. Obviously, lots of logistics and things to handle, but give you that same sort of experience of getting out of your bubble, getting away from home, figuring some stuff out for yourself, networking with people, but without that pressure of you got to figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life right now. Because that,
yeah.
that was my big thing in college. Like, because I did art and computer programming to start with, I did kinesiology as well, business for a little bit, went back to computer programming, in that same semester, and then finally landed on religious studies. And, like at this point, I now being what, like 15 years out of college almost? Or no, 12 years. Jesus. Um I wish I would have waited till like 23, 25 to go to college and had a better idea, like worked a little bit, had a better idea of
Hmm.
um life and things because I had no idea at 18 what I wanted to do. Like the military was always the thing for me, and when that didn't pan out, I was like, now what?
Right.
So, getting that chance to not, how do I want to say it? Yeah, just not be forced to make that kind of like, because I
Hmm.
don't know, like I think at 18 most of the decisions we make are dumb. There's a select
Hmm.
few people who actually like know what they want to do for a career and stuff like that. But we see so many. I have seen so many people like around my age, either that I went to high school with, went to college with, or just kind of known throughout the years, changing careers now
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, I don't like what I'm doing. Like this is never something I really should have done. I mean, that's most of the make money online people up until probably like COVID were just people who realized that the degree that they chose when they were 18 was not the thing that they really wanted to do with their life.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's real, and I'm not there yet because my kids are still young. I know that yours, Eli, is too, but I have no clue what they're telling kids nowadays as far as college. I know me growing up, and I think it's the same thing as you. It was like, yeah, after high school, like this is the next step. Like this is what you do. Is you go to school, you go to college, especially coming from the African background that I did. Like that would like it's held in very very high regard, but and I can't say what I'm going to for sure do when my kids are ready to go, but I feel like it's going to be something along the lines of just being completely honest around my experience with it, their mom's experience with it. Bree is like very like, no, they're going to school, this, that, and like my whole family is, and which is fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, hey, like if you do want to go, like I'm not going to tell you that you can't go, but also just realize that I don't have any statistical data around this. I'm sure it's somewhere. You may not end up doing what you go to school for the rest of your life, but and that's okay. And I got to figure out how to communicate that without subliminally saying go and do your thing for 4 years and get a degree and then we figure it out because we're not about to go out here and spend all this money and you just playing around up there too. So I don't really know, but I know like I go back and forth with the whole college thing. I think knowing what I know now and me personally, how I am, I probably would have done a lot. I don't know, man. It's so hard. Like I can't say that I'm not where I'm at without it. Like I could have gotten where I am now without it. You know what I mean? It feels like that sometimes, but you
Hmm.
never know for sure because like I said before, the relationships that I met in college got me to where I'm at now today. And so it'll be interesting to see when the boys get of college age what we do. But I do know that I want to relieve them of this like expectation and pressure of like, all right, if you pick this thing, that's it. This is what you do. This is who you are, because that's not true. You get a lot of do-overs and you can start back again from scratch a lot, especially when you're in your 20s, where you got all the time in the world. You don't have to make lifelong decisions in your 20s. And I think that's something that has to really be communicated to young people nowadays to give them the freedom to just like relax. It's okay. And stop putting all this pressure on people to like make decisions at 18 that could impact them the rest of their lives. That's not true. Like a lot of my people that I'm friends with and I have relationships with aren't doing anything close to what they went to school for.
100%. Yeah. I've seen the same thing a lot as well with people changing careers, and that I'm with you on the college thing. And what I have kind of decided so far is that I'm going to not even bother talking about until probably like later into his sophomore year or junior year of high school. Because the
Mhm.
other thing too that I think part of the problem is like, especially now, we're trying to make kids grow up too fast. Like like because that was exactly it for me too. I had to. It was expected I was going to college, and the whole kind of way it's like, oh, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to be? I'm like, I know for career day I picked ninja and and a pilot. So it's
Mhm.
like that ninja's not really a good career path. So I don't know. But I'm with you there, and we'll unless he finds something that he just falls passionately in love with, that's computer programming, engineering, I don't know. Then I'll be like, yeah, go do it. Um, but I want you to like job shadow first. That's gonna be kind of the big thing that I try
Ah,
to
that's
do
cool. Yeah.
throughout high school is just whether I have different friends that do these things or who knows where technology and stuff will be. But I'm like, no, like I want you to go and do some semblance of this job for a while and see if that's actually what you think. Because like that's the thing. Like I know several people who have been like, oh my god, I went to school, I did all this, and then I got into like the career and realized like almost immediately this is not at all what I thought it was going to be, and it's
Yeah.
awful, and I hate it, and I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Bro, that happened to me in college. So I was a bio major with a focus on getting into med school. Switched out of that. Then I switched to physical therapy. So it's like, oh, PT, like, yeah, that's, still working with the body, working with people, blah, 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 getting people from injury back to play, whatever, that whole deal. And I was like, yeah, that sounds dope. Like, let's do it. Bro, I shadowed a PT office in college, and I was like, man, heck no, bro, this is not me. It felt very, and no disrespect to PTs out there. We need you all. You're very, very important. For my skill set and my personality, it just did not fit. And could it have been the wrong office or, the wrong clients? Maybe, I don't know, but I just knew that it was not for me. And I switched very quickly after seeing behind the curtain what it actually was. And so that is very, very wise, because a lot of times, like, you go in a little bit like, you just don't know what you don't know. You think one thing about a job or a situation, and then you get in there and it's not that at all. And so that's really valuable. So then you're not spending time pursuing a career in something that you inevitably are not going to want to do.
100%. Yep, that's exactly it. I went through a very similar thing when I opened a gym with a few of my buddies, and at the time, like, I was obsessed with fitness and nutrition. We were the classic like 2 hour, 3 hour workouts.
Yep.
Spend all day reading about it, meal prep all the time. Like, our life revolved around it, and we had a lot of fun
Mhm.
doing it. So we were just like, let's open a gym. I hated opening being a gym owner. Like, I have zero interest to train, I guess, like, quote unquote normal people. With like wanting to be in the military before and then just being a young 20 something. Like, we were hardcore, and I want to
Yeah.
do hardcore workouts. With
Yeah.
those people, not soccer moms where it's like, okay, let's teach you how to squat today or deadlift properly with a
Yeah.
PVC pipe. Like,
Yeah.
not for me. Not for
Yeah.
me at all.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy how you get into those things and you're like, no, this isn't what I thought. And it's why it's like, when people talk about like following your passion and things of that nature, like, you got to be really careful because of literally what you just said. You were passionate about something, but as soon as it became work, there's other things that surround that passion that have to get done in order for the business to work and grow and all of those things. And when you start finding out about that, it no longer is a passion, because it's surrounded by work that you didn't realize came with it, and then it sucks all the joy out of the thing. So I actually don't even believe that people should always try and monetize the things that they're passionate about. I don't think that you should do that, per se. For example, same thing as you. Like, I'm passionate about fitness. I love working out. I love training. I've been doing it consistently for 12 years, over 12 years now. But there are things like about the gym business, um, that I would have to really sit down and think through. Like, hey, could I do this as a business? Like, do I want to actually immerse myself in this world? Because I know that it comes with things that I may not be great at or passionate about, but it does surround my passion. You know what I mean? So, um, that's a really great reminder that sometimes for some people, just let your passion be your passion. Like, go do whatever you need to do for work, but let the thing that you enjoy just, it's okay if it's just that, you know? So permission to have that is good.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that's actually something that's been on my mind a lot this year. And so, because like I was just talking to my mom about this the other day. I'm actually gonna start looking into going back to school for nursing
Yeah.
because kind of what I've figured out this year is that like I like parts of marketing, mostly on the writing side, but
Hmm.
my passion is more writing. Marketing was just kind of what like paid me to write.
Hmm.
But I don't. But it's just too much of a clash in like the way you have to write for marketing because it's one of those things where um, my thing that I've always struggled with on like the business entrepreneur side is like my own self promotion and stuff like that. So my freelance has kind of always been up and down with clients and stuff like that, and the whole feast and famine stuff. And what I've realized is that I just don't like writing about marketing and marketing stuff. Like all the like I've got dozens and dozens of pages in my notebook of like different posts and things like that that I would like to put out that have absolutely nothing to do with marketing. They're more like conversations like we're having now on life and different things. I've just
Mm-hmm.
kind of grown bored of the whole business thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those where I'm looking at going back to school for nursing because my favorite job still to this day was my CNA job. It just pays terribly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's one of those things where like where I always heard people like in the nursing CNA profession like be like, "Oh my god, I'm so exhausted, so tired after work." I'm like, I feel energized. Like I love helping people. Like I had so much fun just running around doing all that, and I love the human body and how it works. And I've kind of kept coming back to that over and over throughout the years.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, maybe that's it, like let my passion be my passion and, be able to do more like writing and conversation and stuff like this for fun and the sake of it rather than it has to be the thing that makes me money. Because
Mm-hmm.
what I've really started to see over the last couple of years as I started to pay attention more to it is like incentive structures, like whatever you're driving incentive for the thing colors and changes the way you approach it. And oftentimes what I have seen, especially like in the online marketing world and online business world, where it's so easy to say whatever and deliver something else, that so many people who are financially motivated with the things that they're putting out will skimp on quality or the important stuff or this, that, and the other thing for the sake of making more money. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure anybody who has bought a course, like more than one course online, has experienced it where the promise that was on the front page is not what was delivered in the actual training and teaching. It's just like, no thanks. So that's a new journey I'm embarking on now, and it's weird because like I have attached so much of my identity to that kind of like online marketing, freelance, work for yourself type of thing because I started doing this back in 2014 when working online was like not really a thing. I mean, Facebook ads was only a couple of years old. Like everybody's like, you make money like with Facebook? What? Like kind of. So I had that identity because like for a while it was super cool. I got to travel and do whatever I want, and people are like, "Oh my god, you do this online thing."
Yeah.
Um, so it's one of those where like my identity's been attached to that for so long. It's been very difficult to kind of reconfigure that and
Mm.
start saying that out loud because it took my mom's kind of prompting when I was talking about everything and what was going on with the business and stuff like that, and she's like, you've been talking about going back to school for nursing for like 5 years now. Like, just pull the trigger already. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I should. Because I can't commit to anything in my business. And I think that's kind of been the hardest thing. My buddy and I have been talking about this quite a bit the last couple of months is alignment, because he was kind of feeling a similar thing with some of his business stuff and just being out of alignment with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he figured out, like, oh, I just need to drop this part of my identity or this thing. And it's really helped him kind of, I don't want to say unlock, but, enjoy and do more of the right things. And I'm feeling a lot of that as well because it just feels like everything I try to do or like all the offers I could put out, all the, from all the things I've learned and done, all the services I can offer, like nothing just feels in alignment. And I think
Mm.
that's probably been a big reason why I've been thrashing around the last month or so, trying all these different things for what I want to do next.
Mm.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a little confession that that's been hard for me to talk about so far, but I'm glad I
Yeah.
just kind of got it out.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that goes to a couple of points. Full circle around the whole school conversation, right? Like now you're seriously considering going back to school. You're in your 30s now, and that's okay. That's awesome. You've done the online thing, you've done the marketing, you've done all these things, and now you're like, okay, I think my next step is to go back to school and do this thing. Great, awesome. And so like it's unorthodox in terms of like what the world would say you should do and how you should structure it. because what the world would say is like, yeah, you should have went to school for nursing when you graduated high school, and then you could be in your career for 10 plus years already. Like that doesn't have to be all that. So I think that's full circle there. And then secondly, I think what you said is extremely powerful, because I think we get really caught up about like changing our minds on stuff. And it's okay to like, it's the older I get, the less I care about what people think about me, honestly. And I think it comes with just age and maturity. Like if I'm saying I'm doing this thing today and then, next month I'm switching, I'm doing something else, so what? Who cares? Like that's the decision that I wanted to make, and that's what I'm gonna do. You can rock with it or you don't have to. Like I'm not doing things to please you, world. I'm doing things because I'm experiencing things. I want to try new things. And when I die, when I get to hopefully 80, 90, whatever, and I'm looking back on the years of my life, I want to live my life in such a way where I do not regret missing out on opportunities because I was scared of what people were going to think, say, react. This goes for everybody in my life. Everyone. Family, friends, it's tough. It really is hard, but you really need to think with the end in mind. Is the thing that you have been talking about and wanting to do, are you being held back because of what other people may say or think? And if the answer is yes, like I'd really challenge you to think about when you are on your deathbed, the last thing you are going to want is regrets in how you live this life, because you get one shot to live life. That is it. That's it. And so like when I started to implement that sort of like belief system and like framework, bro, like it gave me freedom to just try and do, and that don't work, cool, that didn't work, that's not what I thought it was, awesome, I'm gonna pivot here, I'm gonna do this, and you'll land on something. You'll land on something, right? And so like I think it's powerful what you're doing, and I commend you for being vulnerable there, because it's a message that people need to hear, and I think will give people the permission to actually make the choices in their life that they want to make, that's actually going to bring them fulfillment. We have to stop living life from this place of fear. Most of us do this. I'll be the first to raise my hand. I've done this for a long time. Like, man, I want to do this thing, but I just can't. Like, what if it doesn't work? Like, what if people think that I'm not good enough? Like, what if it's stupid? Like, what if insert whatever? And then it literally cripples you from making that leap, that attempt, taking that step in faith, and just seeing. Like, just try. What is the worst thing that could happen? You prove somebody right because it didn't work. Okay, cool. Move to the next thing. And what I've learned is the people that have actually have had any sort of success in their life, they will be the people that will champion you no matter how bad it fails, no matter the outcome. It's those people. The people that judge you and that are speaking negativity over you are the people that aren't doing anything with their life. And so they're looking at yours and telling you because they feel like they can't do it. Well, friend, you can't do it either. And it's just something that I've
Mm-hmm.
learned. Like the people that really love you and are ahead of you, they never push you down. They never degrade you. They never make you feel like you can't achieve something. It's always the internet trolls that make fake profiles that are out there talking crazy that we hold so near and dear and hold tight. They got 2 followers and you know it's a fake profile. That type of stuff. And so I know I just went on some really long rant, but bro, what you said is extremely powerful and it's gonna help somebody.
Yeah, for sure. I agree on your whole tangent. So right on with it. But that's kind of exactly right. Is like I think it's becoming more common now to switch careers later on. I mean, like I've seen so many people come into the internet marketing world because they didn't like what they were doing before. Um,
Yeah.
and also, like, thankfully, nursing seems to be like a second career profession. I can't tell you how many nurses I've met over the years who were like, "Oh yeah, I didn't become a nurse until my 30s."
Mm.
So that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I think overall, as I've kind of been thinking about this, is a lot of it has to do with the whole kind of like culture of America where our identity and kind of almost worth in a lot of circles and situations is loosely tied into what you do. Because, like, what's one of the first questions you always ask someone new? Oh, what do you do? Right? Like,
Yeah.
your profession defines you. And the thing is, the older I get, the more I realize that everything is individual. Like yeah, of course, like stereotypes and all that kind of stuff are there for a reason, but
Mhm.
so much of who who we are, what we want, is very circumstantial and things like that. So trying to continue to fit in these boxes, or live that certain way or whatever, becomes less and less beneficial, or even realistic. I don't know what exactly I'm trying to say here. It's I think that, like, identity piece is what it's wrapped around, and you hear so many people who, like, kind of lives fall apart from careers not going the right way or things like that, instead of realizing, like, we have a very long life and we can do whatever we want with it, and nothing, like, even the 10 years I've spent in marketing is not a failure, because one, I've worked with a lot of healthcare type businesses over that time.
Mhm.
So, like, I've got a good understanding of that. If I work for any kind of clinic in the future, like as a nurse, I'm like, I know freaking marketing, sales, like business stuff. Like, I can help with that. So I become an even more valuable employee.
Mhm.
And then also too, like, what I want to do is like a document the journey type of thing as I go through this, and just like
Mhm.
figure out how to do school as, you know, non-traditional student, someone in their 30s.
Mhm.
And because, again, like you said, like, try to be a voice for other people who are in similar situations, because I think that's the coolest thing about social media, and what we have access to now is so many people just being able to say, like, hey, like, these are my experiences doing, XYZ thing. And there's probably going to be someone else out there who is a very, very similar situation that's like, oh my God,
Mhm.
like, I need to hear that, or I wish someone would have told me that sooner, because, like, I know throughout my life, I have both been on the receiving end of watching someone's videos and they say something that just kind of clicks, and it's like, oh, that's it, and the whole idea is spark and go. Or
Mhm.
vice versa, where, like, I'm talking to a friend or someone who's a little bit younger and being like, hey, like, this is what I've experienced, doing this thing. And they're like, oh my God, I never thought about that, I never considered that. So I think that would be a lot more fun to do than, all the business content where you have to worry about viral hooks and your,
Yeah.
what your CPMs are and how many
Mhm.
leads you're generating. It's like, I don't know. Like, I just want to share cool things I'm doing with life and find
Yeah.
other people doing that. And those who are interested will tune in and, hopefully, like, I don't know, figure out something to do with it.
Yeah.
I
No.
think, just to finish off, because
Yeah.
I forgot exactly what you said, but it made me think of looking at life more as a series of experiments. Like you're saying, like, just try it out. If I change my mind in a month, like, that's not a bad thing. It just means I experimented with something I thought I was going to enjoy, found out I didn't. Now I have definitive evidence that it's like, no, this
Mhm.
isn't the right thing, or this is the
Yep.
right thing.
Yep.
And I miss doing that. I've been thinking about that a lot too these last few months, because most of my 20s and I my life, like, I just did weird experiments on myself. Well, pretty much all of it was around, like, fitness and nutrition, like different training programs or meal plans and things like that. Um I'm like, I miss that. Like, I don't feel like I've been able to do that as much with a lot of business things, because so much of it is tied to results and revenue, and if it does, it doesn't work, then this, that, or the other thing, or you don't eat, or you don't make money. And, like, I don't know, like, I want to get back to just doing weird experiments and seeing what works and what happens, because that sounds way more interesting to me.
Honestly, bro, I love it. And it just confirms. I agree with you on the identity piece. I think that's really like an American culture thing. It's like who you are is direct. I don't even think it's loosely, bro. My opinion, I think it's tightly associated with what you do. Like, and I can speak from my own experience, and it's being able, you've got to find something. For me, it's my faith. Not everybody is a believer, like that's fine, but you got to find something that is deeper than what you do, because what you do is not who you are. The problem of identifying with what you do as who you are is something could happen tomorrow and you lose that thing, you lose that job. Then what? If your identity was fully rooted in what you did for work, you're in trouble. You're in trouble because what's the next step, right? Like
Look
how
how
how do you move from there when you've lost the thing that you have spent 60 to 80 to 100 hours a week on for several years? When that's gone and that's what your identity was wrapped in, that's a really dangerous spot to be in, because then now your self-worth is tied to what you do. And so I think that's really, really powerful what you're talking about as well, in terms of like experimenting with things and really identifying. What I heard you say is like, I want to figure out a why that is so deep that it does not impact my actions and what I put out into the world in terms of content and things of that nature. Like, I'm not doing this for the clicks. I'm not doing this for the KPIs or anything like that. I'm doing this because here is my mission and here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And I just want to document this along the way because I think it can help even one, two, three people. Awesome. But I'm also gonna have fun doing it. And so we can attach it to something deeper than just the outcome or the results. You and I talk about this all the time. It's then much easier to be able to be consistent in things. But then also, like, you're not tied to what the world says you should be, or how well something performs in comparison to something else, because you don't care about any of those things. It's about making a true impact and impacting the human on the other side that's ultimately consuming what you're putting out.
Yeah, 100%. You know, like as you're kind of doing it, popped into my head is like doing life. Like that's what we're doing, and I think that's the most interesting kind of content out there is people who are just doing things that they're deeply interested in talking about. Because I mean, look at like Joe Rogan, Lex Friedman, Chris Williamson, Stephen Bartlett, all these super big podcasters and things like that. Like they've just done interesting things with their life and talked about it and have this kind of knack for talking with people, right? You know,
Yes.
and like obviously like Joe Rogan, like he's got a pretty famous background with doing the UFC commentating and Fear Factor and stuff like that. But you know, like if you listen to some of these other people, like they've just had really interesting life experiences and done different things. And it doesn't necessarily have to be these big business ventures or big financial things. You know, I think you're absolutely right. It is like the whole career identity and what you do is so ingrained in American culture that we get caught up in this idea of our profession kind of almost becomes that hierarchy in society. And we're very unique in that because I have a really good friend who grew up in a British, I think it's still considered a colony, but like it's an island that's like under British rule and influence and stuff like
Hmm.
that. He's like,
Hmm.
we don't, you know, he's a doctor, a very successful doctor with his own practice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he treats it like it's a 9 to 5 job. He's like, no. Like I do this to make money. And like, I started my own practice because I want to take 3 months of vacation every year when I want. And like his whole practice is formed around that. Like at the
Yeah.
beginning of the year, he picks what he's like when he's taking vacation and then like lets all of his clients know or patients know,
Hmm.
hey, book your times around this. Too bad, so sad.
Yep.
And um he has other very successful doctor friends and friends in general, and very rarely were the conversations ever around business. You know, it was just much more life and people and all these different things going on. And I think it's that strong, you know, that because a lot of them didn't grow up in America that they don't have that.
100%. 100%. Man, we're having a really great conversation, but I gotta jump because I got a call in 1 minute. I'm excited to see the clips of this. This is gonna be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good. All right, man. Have fun on your call. Always love chatting with you here, and
Hey,
I'll let you know when I get up into Opus Clips. Later, man.